Review of Dune Messiah. I have finally finished this book and wow, did it end on like an absolutely crazy, absurd and unexpected note, but of course it's a very fitting ending. Dune Messiah is a total of 336 words. I managed to finish it in 3 weeks, so I did get around to reading this a little faster than the last one, although it is less than half the size, so I'm not sure what I was doing, probably focusing on writing. And I rated this book an overall 4 out of 5 stars. With the ending and everything that happened in the book, there's a part of it that it's so worth 5 out of 5 stars. Like, I already know this series as itself as a whole is 5 out of 5 stars, but the only reason I rated it 4 out of 5 stars was because it felt a little bit like a filler book until the end. It felt like there wasn't much happening, and by the time I was here in the book, I was already thinking, what's happening in this book? What is the main climax? What is going to be the main conflict and the main challenge that the characters overcome? But then like literally on the last few pages it all goes down, which in itself is a technique to have it kind of going slow and steady and seeming like nothing's really happening until the very last few pages. I think because the story is so amazing and we're already so engrossed in everything that's happening, it was in itself a technique that he could have employed. But that's the only reason perhaps I feel like I can't give it a full 5 out of 5 stars, especially when the whole time you're thinking, what's happening here? So as a Christian, reading this book, giving my perspective as a believer, I would just like to say that a human can never be a messiah, and this book does explore those themes. And it's very interesting how his rise to a deity-like figure happens so quickly. So it's over about the course of 12 years, I think it is, that it skips from book 1 to book 2. Maybe 12, or is Alia 16? I'm not sure, but I know that Alia is about 16 in this book and she was maybe 2. So maybe it's about 14 years that it skips between the first book and we jump straight into Muad'Dib's rule, and we don't have a lot of context to everything that's been happening in that time, although we do get little glimmers of it, but I don't really think that you need that. But already the book from the very beginning touches upon the notes of the fact that he is more than a man, but less than a god. I'm not sure what Frank Herbert's beliefs were. Perhaps I should have looked that up before the video, but he definitely toys around with that idea that yes, Paul has been given these amazing powers and he has prescience and he has the ability to see multiple futures at once, but not only is he still extremely human and able to be killed, but he's also burdened by the weight of that, like the ability that he has to see everything. It's something that no human should have to go through, or something that no human can really tolerate and actually use well. By the end of the book, we have him kind of going crazy, have him kind of falling apart under the weight of it all. Despite having this power and this vision, he can't do anything in the end. He can't change anything. He can only maybe bend and flex within what's already been ordained. And isn't that how we are within God? How we are within God's sovereignty? So I just want to read a few quotes. We have on page 297 where he states, "That too is true, but my hands are blue with time. I think I've tried to invent life, not realizing it had already been invented." Just one of the many moments where Paul realizes that he's buckling under the weight of it all and he really had no power all along. So what was it all for then? One thing I just want to note too is, did anyone else sort of freak out with the constant referencing of Hyatt's metal eyes? Like, it was constant. Pretty much every single time someone was talking to him or we were in his point of view, all we heard about was the metal eyes, the metal eyes. And I actually just could not understand. I couldn't picture him, because I'm picturing him the way that he was in the movie, and I just could not picture him with metal eyes. So what I ended up doing was actually going onto Google to see like Duncan Idaho with metal eyes, and actually someone did do some sort of fan art imagining of what it might look like in the movie, and that did help a lot, because I was thinking, do the eyes actually look real, but they just know that these creatures have metal eyes, or are they actually metal eyes? That was kind of freaking me out. Another thing I noticed, I don't know if anyone else experienced this, but the part where the atomics are used, the stone burner is used, and they all lose their eyes, including Paul. First of all, that was a major shock, but it didn't hit me as much as it could have, because I was confused on whether or not it was a vision or not, because he starts referring to what he can see even with his blind eyes as the vision. So I think that part could have been a little less confusing, because I had to go back and reread it and to ascertain whether or not he was actually really blind now, or this was just something that was happening in a vision. And even after I reread it, it wasn't until I went on further in the book that I realized, okay, no, he's really blind. But once again, another complete twist that I didn't expect. And it was extremely cool, the fact that he was still able to see even without his eyes. But then he referred to it to the vision, which took me a little while to cotton onto what was actually happening. So what do I think the ultimate theme and message of this book was? From a Christian perspective, I feel like it's just another example of a human that tries to fly too close to the sun and is burnt, and at the end will be consumed by God's sovereignty no matter what. But even if Frank Herbert was not a Christian, or was not trying to weave in Christian themes, I do believe that he thinks the same thing, that these organizations, the Bene Gesserit and the Bene Tleilaxu, I don't know how to say that, but they are trying to create this kind of perfect human and messing around with genetics, and ultimately it's just destructive. Where do we go from here? I have no idea. I still have 4 books left, and rather large books, but Paul's dead, Chani's dead. We're left with Alia and the 2 children that Paul and Chani had. So my only thoughts from here are, is Paul really dead? Is he coming back? Or is the story now going to center on these children and Alia? Like, is the story just, was it always meant to and leading up to just the story of the people that are coming next, you know? But I just want to know, will the story continue to hold my interest and capture my heart despite losing these characters that I already got so attached to? It's sort of like a Game of Thrones situation, although in Game of Thrones we do tend to have like houses that have been there from the very beginning. We just lose certain characters. So I guess we will still be dealing with the House of Atreides, but now is the story going to focus more on Princess Irulan, the raising of the children? Who knows? So that's my only thought about this, and I'll be getting into the 3rd book. I was thinking, oh, do I want to try and read something else before I read the 3rd? But no, I'm going to go straight into the 3rd, guys. But it's probably going to take me at least a month to get through. And now I just thought I would go through any of the quotes that I highlighted that I feel that I should read out and mention. Oh, I love this on page 68. Words of Muad'Dib by Princess Irulan. Empires do not suffer emptiness of purpose at the time of their creation. It is when they have become established that aims are lost and replaced by vague ritual. I loved this because isn't it reminiscent of also what's happening today? The more decadent we become as a society, the more luxurious, the more free time we have to even create and to do wonderful things, the less and less beauty there is, the more destruction there is, the more monotony there is, the more rehashing and reusing of old ideas. And that quote there just reminded me of that. Oh, I really like this on page 157 because it had a lot of subtext to it. I presume nothing. I take nothing which is not first offered to me. Be glad I did not take all that was offered. I was wondering if that's a little bit like, you know, Duncan knowing he could have gone the whole way with Alia, but he didn't do that. I just really liked how subtle that was. I mean, maybe it's not subtle, but it was just a very interesting way to say, like, I know that you want me. So I really enjoyed that. Here's another quote that just goes to show he's starting to learn that he had no power all along. On page 164, Paul says, once long ago, he thought of himself as an inventor of government, but the invention had fallen into old patterns. It was like some hideous contrivance with plastic memory. Shape it any way you wanted, but relax for a moment, and it snapped into the ancient forms. Forces at work beyond his reach, and human breasts saluted and defied him. I liked this on page 167. You are drunk on too much time. I really like that. I love all the descriptions of his visions and the universe stretching out, the future floating above him, all of those sorts of ways that Frank uses to describe his prescience, but in very simple terms without too much language. I really found the writing to be beautiful once again, and I think that it was even better in this second book. Here's another one on 219. The universe opposed him at every step. It eluded his grasp, conceived countless disguises to elude him. That universe would never agree with any shape he gave it. I love that. I feel like it's just that idea that no matter how hard you try to stare reality in the face, when you stare at it, the face always changes. And that's because reality is created by God, and God is governing reality, and we are just not able to understand or look upon it and see the truth. I think we'll always kind of end up changing things in a way to be what we think they are, what we want them to be. Here's an example of what I was talking about before. 287, Alia, she felt that she reached across the universe, such a stretching out. She lay intertwined with all of time. His features crawled, became aged, then young, aged, young. He was life itself, assertive, endless. She turned to flee, but he grabbed her left wrist. I liked that, a good description of being like under the influence and the way you see something. I think that's it. I think that's all the others are more just descriptive things. So yeah, where am I at with Dune? I absolutely love it, although I'm a little confused on where it's going to go next and how I am going to enjoy it. So stay tuned, keep listening on this channel. Don't forget, guys, to give the video a like if you watched it, a comment, and subscribe if you can, as it really helps the channel out. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Thanks.